The month of April has come to an end here in the Royals season, and we are ready to embark upon the month of May. Before we do that, let's go over what happened in April. It is the first month of the season, so a lot of these stats really don't matter much, and it's just really just getting a grasp of things in the system. It's not going to be the longest monthly recap, but it's going to be out there. So, 18-11 to start the first month. That is good enough for first place in the AL Central. This team has definitely gotten off to a more of a surprising start than I would have thought. I knew this team had the capability to compete for like a wild card spot, but I wasn't accounting for the entire AL Central to just shit the bed in the first month of the season, and then us for not to do that. So that's essentially what it is right now. We'll see if it sticks. I don't want it to stick personally. I want to trade away the talent at the deadline to get some prospects because that's what you need for the future. This roster is not going to win a World Series. If somehow we get down to the trade deadline and this team's still in first place, I might still just trade away some of the talent because this roster is not winning a World Series even if we somehow are in first place in the AL Central. And I would just want to get prospects because what we're trying to do here is build for the future. But taking a look at some of these stats for the hitters on the team, Jorge Soler was definitely our best bat through the month of April. He is a 906 OPS, he's slashing 305, 406, 500. Through the first month, only 2 home runs, but nobody's really hitting too many home runs on our team. Mike Moustakas, 704 OPS, not the most impressive, 2 home runs. John Jay has been the most impressive of the leadoff guys. His 324 OBP, definitely not what you want to see from a leadoff guy, but it's definitely more impressive more than impressive than our leadoff guy against lefties, who is Whit Merrifield, who has a 297 OBP. Definitely not what you want to see. Second lowest OPS on the team at 555. The lowest OPS on the team belongs to the catcher, Salvador Perez. He's been hitting third in our order to start the year. He's probably going to get moved down because you can't continue hitting 536 as an OPS and still just sit in that 3-hole. I know it's the first month of the season. He's probably going to snap out of it at some point, but as of right now, he is not getting the job done. And then probably the best guy stats-wise in our bullpen to start the year has been Justin Grimm, the Grim Reaper. 7 2/3 innings for him. 9 strikeouts, has not allowed a run yet on the year, so that's pretty darn good to start the year for him. And as far as taking a look at some of the guys on our team and who we have in the minors that could be called up eventually, just, you know, guys that if trades do happen or injuries happen, these are the guys we're looking at. And then also some pitchers that we're looking to trade. There's Danny Duffy, who is going to be with us for a while. He signed through 2021. I have no problem with him being signed through 2021. I'm not looking to trade him. He is going to be on our roster. And he's pitching well, too. He's through 38 innings. He struck out 39. He's got a 2.61 ERA. Jason Hamill is a guy who I would be looking to trade at the deadline. He's on the last year of his contract. He has a 1.29 ERA through 42 innings pitched, so he is putting on a display. If he continues pitching as well, we might be able to sell high on him at the deadline. Jake Junis is a young guy who I'm not looking to trade. He's probably going to be running this series for a while, not as a second or third starter, but he's probably more of like a 4th, 5th starter type potential guy. And he's pitching pretty well to start the year too, a 2.43 ERA in 37 innings. Nate Carnes is a guy who's really not that flashy. He's probably just like a max, like a 4th starter, 5th starter type guy. But he is an 80 overall. I could possibly get some C-type prospects, C-potential prospects for him. I'm not sure how well these prospects would do or just how good these prospects would be, but I could probably squeeze something for him at the deadline. And then Ian Kennedy is a guy who I would like to trade. He has this year plus 1 more year in his deal. If I do trade him, it would just be purely just to dump him because he's just blocking people. I'd rather have like a young guy be the 5th starter than Ian Kennedy, to be honest, in future seasons because Ian Kennedy's not going anywhere. He's just... He is what he is. He's not going to have a breakout year. He's Ian Kennedy. But because he's Ian Kennedy, we're not going to be able to get much for him. It would just be like a dump, like I said, for maybe like a couple, like, I don't know, like mid-20s, like AAA guys who could just fill in some holes and be like 4A players for us. As far as 2 pitchers we have in AAA right now who are ready to just take somebody's spot if an injury or a trade does happen, Jesse Hahn has a 2.48 ERA in AAA right now, and then there's also Clay Buchholz, the former Red Sox, who has a 2.10 ERA in AAA. So those are probably the 2 guys that I would be looking at to call up right now. Not long-term guys. Hahn's probably more long-term than Clay Buchholz, because Buchholz is definitely not a prospect or a young guy. He's just Clay Buchholz. Now moving on to the hitting side of things in the minor leagues and who we have guys to call up, there's Hunter Dozier, obviously all aware of him. If you are not, I have talked about him in yesterday's prospect profile of 3 different players, Dozier, Mondesi, and Bubba Starling. So Dozier, obviously, if there's a hole at either first or third, he's the first guy to get called up. There's also Cody Ashe, who is currently in Double-A because we don't really have room for him in Triple-A. He's raking in Double-A. He's an all-around bat. He's mainly like a corner infielder, third base, first base, and then left field, right field type guy. I would never play him in center field, but he can technically in this game play in center field. I would never play him there unless it was like desperate times, call for desperate measures. But he is behind Hunter Dozier on the corner infield call-up line, and he's also behind a couple other guys on the corner infield or the corner outfield call-up line. Obviously, like I mentioned yesterday, there is Alberto Mondesi, who could be called up, but there's also Ramon Torres as a utility middle infielder, second base, shortstop, third base type player. He's only hitting .218 in AAA right now, so Mondesi is probably above him on the totem pole right now, but Torres is a guy who you could see, you're probably going to see, as like a utility infielder at some point throughout this series. Especially if we do trade Alcides Escobar, because he is yet again another player who only has 1 year left on his deal. He's old, he's not going to get any better, he has not really any potential, he's not really that good, he's not really what I'm looking for in the future, so Escobar is a guy who could be traded at the deadline as well. In the outfield, we have Tyler Collins, who is not the top guy on the totem pole to get called up, but he is a decent AAA outfielder. He's an all-around bat, average fielder. Nothing too flashy, but he is a guy who could probably get the job done if needed. There's Billy Burns. He's just super fast. He's a good contact bat. He's not going to hit any home runs, obviously. He's just a guy who's going to slap the ball around. Not the most typical player who I'd really go for, but he is a guy, he is an option to play like some center field or left field, really. Abraham Almonte, currently in AAA. He's a good contact bat, good fielder as well. He's probably like the second guy on the totem pole to get called up. It's probably Jorge Bonifacio, who is the next name. He is raking in AAA. He is the #1 name on the totem pole to get called up, but the thing about him is he's a very good all-around bat. He's a good fielder. He's got good speed, but I don't want him to be a bench player in the major leagues, and right now, if I call them up, I have the platoon of Jay and Orlando going in center, and then we've got Gordon in left and Soler in right. I could call him up to be a DH. I might do that some point in this month of May that we're about to head into, but I don't want him to be like a fourth outfielder where he's only going to play every so few games, because I want him to be an everyday player at the major league level when I do call him up. And he is the top of the totem pole as far as it goes for outfield call-ups. It's probably him, then Abraham Almonte, then Billy Burns, and then Tyler Collins. We also went out and signed 2 free agents to go straight to AAA. These are both guys who could possibly end up in the major leagues for us at some point. One guy is definitely more likely to end up in the majors than the other. The first guy we signed was Tommy Joseph, a first baseman. We're looking at him as a DH. Right now our DH is Cheslor Cuthbert. It could end up being Jorge Bonifacio at some point in the year, but right now it's Cheslor Cuthbert. Not the best DH bat, not really the best bat in general, even though it seems like whenever I play with him he does well. He doesn't really do too well in sims, so Tommy Joseph is a guy who's a good power bat. He's a guy who could knock out a few home runs. He's a decent guy to have in the DH spot. And he's only 26 years old, so if he does not retire at the end of the year, because I don't know if that issue is still in this game, if he doesn't retire at the end of the year, we could bring him back to be a AAA bat, 4A bat, be a possibly DH in the major leagues next year as well. And the other guy we signed is relief pitcher Luke Hochevar, former Kansas City Royal. He has not pitched in the major league since 2016, I believe. He missed all of 2017 with an injury. He got surgery, and he's not with an MLB team in real life. He does not want to retire in real life, and in this, we ended up signing him. He's going to go straight to AAA, try to work his way up back to the major leagues with the Royals. He is a guy who can control his pitches. He's got good velocity, great break, decent, like, per 9 stats as well. So he's a guy who could come up to the major leagues and do well for us if he does do well in AAA. He's probably going to get called up if he pitches well in, like, 2 weeks. He'll probably get called up because we have open spots in the bullpen because our bullpen is not very good. And with that being said, that's going to wrap things up here for this edition of the Kansas City Royals franchise. We have finished up the month of April, and we are now embarking on the month of May. I've been your host, Jerseyborn, and I'm saying goodbye.